Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear, Tom.
Okay, very good. In that case, I would like to call the regular Town of Plainfield Board of Finance meeting to order. If we could all please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Tom Sienkiewicz, Don Cavella.
Don is here. Hold on one second. Don,
Okay,
he just came in and I gotta unmute him. There we go.
all right, so Don's here.
Yes.
Kim Medlin, I believe, is absent.
Correct.
Travis Irons,
Present.
Ted Dumaine,
Here.
Ray Stallborn.
Here.
Oh, Gary, you made it. Excellent. Matt Radin
Here.
and Keith Shirley.
Here.
Okay. Matt, you will have voting rights for Kim if you accept.
I'll accept.
Okay, very good. All right. Next item, number 3, acceptance of the minutes from the June 10th, 2020 meeting. So the minutes did go out a bit late this time, but they did go out. I know I had a chance to print them and look over them. I'm not sure if all members did, but Kevin can actually pull them up.
Just give me 1 second and I will do that for you.
Okay.
I'll accept them. I'll move that we accept them.
Where are they? Doty. There we go. Hold on 1 second and I can pop it right up.
Okay.
No, not that one. Got to find the right one. All right, that's there.
I guess it's not the end of the world if you can't, Kevin. It's really up to the members. If any of them met, like I said, I had a chance to see them. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, so again, there are the minutes. They were in fact posted prior to the meeting. So any questions or comments? If not, I would make a motion to accept.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Chair. I'll second Don's motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, Don. All right, so Don, you had the motion.
Yep.
Matt, second. All right, very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
1.
All right, who's that?
Gary.
Gary, okay. All right, very good. Next, under new business, before we move into new business, just very quickly, I'd like to entertain a motion to move item C to our first item. Item C is to discuss police department update on new jail cells.
I'll move that we amend the agenda to move item C to the top of new business.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have
Gary.
a motion and a second. Okay, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Matt. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now item under new business to discuss police department update on new jail cell. Chief, you here with us?
I am. Thank you very much for moving that chair, and thank you, board. We have something else that I'm needed at this time. A little bit about the update. Obviously, June 8th, 2020, Board of Selectmen approved Jakunski Humes Architects, JHA, to design and manage and update the cells on the amount of $12,000. The $12,000 will be coming out of this year's current police budget. JHA, Jakunski Hume, is the leading architectural firm in New England when it comes to public safety and holding cells. They have designed and managed over 90 public safety buildings, and they are also currently working on another project in the town of Plainfield. The project has now effectively gone out to bid as of June 16th, yesterday. All holding cell specifications and diagrams can be found online at Advanced Reprographics in Plainville, Connecticut. Plainville. All bids must be submitted no later than June 25th, 2020 at 2 p.m., at which time they will be publicly opened at the town hall. Like we've stated in the past, we do not have an exact cost of the project, but I've looked at ways to reduce costs, such as utilizing the older toilets and sinks, the combinations of those. They are functioning, but are outside of their life expectancy. So we're trying to cut down the cost. We're hoping that the project is going to be less than $150,000. Currently, at this time, I am approximating in excess of $100,000 left in my police budget for 2019 to 2020, which we can use for this project. It should be noted that since this is such a specialized job, it was very difficult finding companies that does this line of work and are willing to do this work due to the fact that it's on a smaller scale with only 3 holding cells. We did find one company, KNE Corp, out of Massachusetts, who initially came in. They estimated our project at about $100,000. But the weird thing about that now is now that an architect has taken over the specifications and the oversight of the project, they are no longer willing to bid on the job. So I don't know if basically they were telling us that, okay, $100,000, and I'm not an expert in the cells, but we weren't going to get what we were looking for, or they don't want, obviously, somebody, a professional, overseeing them on their job. So they're not going to bid on it. Speaking to the architect said he will have 2 to 3 bids of companies that he typically works with when he builds police stations all over New England. So that's basically my update, what I have so far. It's really not much to go on or concrete until we open up the bid specs on the 25th, which JHA will oversee and make sure that all the specs are up to his parameters.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for the update. Any questions for Mike?
Yeah, Chief, this is Gary. I know when me and Kevin visited you back in February for contracts, we mentioned about the cells then, right, Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm just curious why you didn't like hire somebody, an engineer, kind of at that point, a little earlier on, you know, to go through it.
A couple of reasons. One, obviously, we came right into the COVID about March, and then that's when the whole state and everything, the whole United States shut down. 2 was we didn't know where we were going, and I was in contact a little bit with this first selectman and also the chair of the board. If we were going to wait until after the budget year, see how much money I turn back over to you, the board, to put back into the fund balance, and then request the full amount from you from the fund balance, or if we were going to go with the project now. Since obviously COVID has opened up a little bit and we could do some things, I've talked to the first selectman, I've talked to Tom, the chair, and they felt that this was the best way to move forward at this time, was to go out, spend the money that I had for the architect, get the designs, and if I have the money in this year's budget, spend it, and then come to you and ask for maybe an additional appropriation.
Yeah, you know, I have no problem with it. I was just curious on the delay on the engineering part of it, that's all.
And also, sir, to find somebody who specializes, obviously, in police departments and cells. Every engineer out there, that's not their their forte.
Right, right.
And there's not a book out there that says exactly what the specifications could be that we found out about. So that was a little bit tough.
Okay, no, not a problem.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any other questions from the members?
Go ahead,
This is
Ted.
Teddy. Where can I see
Ted?
the specs?
I couldn't understand. I don't know who was talking.
It was Ted. Ted, you were looking for where the specs are, is that correct?
That's correct.
There's specs on the state of Connecticut site. There's specs on the town of Plainfield site. Kyle Collins can get you, if you do not want to go on the Plainfield site, Kyle Collins or myself can get you printout specs, or you can also get them from Advanced Reprographics in Plainfield, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, this is Matt Radan. Quick question. So the bulk of the cost for this, the $100,000 or so, if I understand correctly, those are budget underruns from this year that you're looking to return to the town, and then we would be potentially looking to access that from the fund balance in the next fiscal year?
Yes, that is correct, sir. I'm looking at line item under police salaries from not filling officers because of testing. You couldn't obviously do physical assessments and all of the other things that we couldn't do at this time. And then left over in overtime and a few other line items. I'm looking that I'll have about $100,000+, Mr. Raymond.
Okay, and the potential additional cost on that you said was in the neighborhood of $12,000 at the moment?
Well, 12,000, which I'm going to cover also out of this year's budget, that will be paying for the expertise of the architect.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, this is Travis. Is it more realistic for us as a board, if we're thinking about eventually doing an appropriation out of the fund balance, is it more realistic to shift our mindset to about a $150,000 project?
Yeah, absolutely, Chief. It is. That's what we're estimating, and that's what the architect has given us for a best guess, is the whole project will cost up approximately $150,000. Obviously, we won't know until we open it up on June 25th, but that's our best guess right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think some, maybe Mr. Chair, some discussion amongst the board, if it's appropriate to have that now, would be what's everybody's sense about, when we do go into the new fiscal year, would anybody have any objection to appropriating that kind of money for the police department to make this needed upgrade? I mean, certainly anybody who attended the meeting at the police department is pretty familiar with their need. I mean, we saw it right on the screen in front of us.
Absolutely. My only question, which would be going towards Kevin, because I know there was some discussion on this, is towards the end of the month, the Board of Selectmen was planning on meeting, and I believe that this was going to be an item on their agenda. And part of the discussion was also going to be, was there any money, and it's cutting it very close, because obviously we've had to dig into other parts of this year's budget to try to cover other expenses, but was going to be any money that we could try to use on the town side to put towards this? Or was it going to have to be like a full 50? Because part of the discussion was, could we try to keep it under 50? Could we maybe, get a couple grand from somewhere and cut it down to like, maybe they would need like 48. And then that would be the amount we would approve. But that was still preliminary discussions and kind of up in the air.
And I can jump in at this time to talk about some of that. You'll note that the regular scheduled meeting for the Board of Selectmen would have been Monday, the 22nd. We have decided to cancel both that and the Water Pollution Control Authority. There's really not much to talk about at that point because there's no business really going on. Instead, I'm going to be asking to put a special Board of Selectmen meeting up on the 29th. A couple of reasons why. One is the bid process comes back on the 25th for these cells. Once that bid process comes back, the Board of Selectmen will vote to approve or deny on the 29th. And then at that point, we'll have a better number of how much money is available at that point from the town side for the Board of Selectmen. We can actually look around and try to find where monies are available to see if we can cut that. Let's use that around 150 as a ballpark number, but we'll look to see where we can actually get extra monies from the town side for what's left over for a final line item transfer to cover those monies. And then if the Board of Finance so approves to cover the rest of it, we've got it all covered. And the Board of Finance would be taking, I'll use a round number. If we had $25,000 left over from the town side of the budget, we'd ask to appropriate that money in a line item transfer towards it to the jail cells. And that way the Board of Finance can then decide what they'd like to do for the final $25,000 to come out of the general fund.
Right, and keeping in mind that if we can't for some reason find any more on the town side when everything is said and done, and we do have to consider an extra 50, then we also need to have the town meeting.
Yep, we're going to try our very best to come up with what we have for left over. And I know Kelly, are you still on?
Yes.
Your best guess at this point? I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, we have the 50,000. We're okay.
All right.
We'll be fine.
As long as nothing else breaks down.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
So we do have the jail cell replacement listed under the police station for the 20/fiscal 21 capital improvement plan. So how is that going to impact that, Kevin?
Well, again, that's one of the items we can actually take off the list because we knew we were going to have to do that sooner or later. So it does, I would like to do everything possible for this current fiscal year for a couple of reasons. One, if we have the money left over, let's do it. It's something that's absolutely needed. You all saw that. Number two is next year is going to be I've already put out a memo and I sent it over to Tom. Town hall's in a freeze. We're already in freeze from day one. We're going to do everything we can to minimize expenditures, minimize everything. The only thing that comes through is maybe, I don't know, an emergency situation where you need $400 for brakes for a police cruiser. And we'll take that money out of Mario's salary, but that's okay. But, those are the things we want to make sure we can actually minimize as best we can because we have no idea how bad things are going to be from next year. And in order to do this right, you go into a hiring freeze, you go into a pay freeze, you go into a purchasing freeze. You do all of those things that you can to help the town. So let's get it done this year using this year's expenditures and this year's monies so we can finish off our books properly, but get this project completed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Travis. Just so I'm following this along appropriately, we're considering using the chief's leftover $100,000 and a $50,000 contribution from the town.
Yeah.
Out of this current fiscal year's money.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Understood. Thank you.
Just so it's clear to me, this is Teddy Dumaine. There will be no need to go into the fund balance?
Correct.
Thanks.
But we would still have to have a meeting to do the line item transfer.
I agree.
Due to
Yes.
the dollar amount.
Yep.
Right.
And the Board of Selectmen will do their first part of it on the 29th.
Cutting it a little close there at the end of the year, huh?
Like always, right?
Yep.
Any more questions for the chief? No? All right. Chief, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. I'm sorry I have to run.
Good night.
Good night.
Mr. Chair, can we just real quick run through the sequence of events as far as the calendar goes on this? Because I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The police side of the budget will still be able to allocate those funds towards this project, but that $50,000 transfer, how are we gonna, do we have a direct vote or say on that, or is that going to just be the Board of Selectmen?
No, my understanding is that at that meeting, like you had said, Matt is going to be cutting it kind of close, but at that meeting, I would assume that part of their motion at that Board of Selectmen's meeting will be to send it to the Board of Finance, assuming they approve it.
That would be correct. And we have to wait for those bids to come in so we can get the actual number. So that way we can transfer the appropriate amount.
So our meeting would either have to be same day right after, or I'm assuming Tuesday?
Personally,
You could-
I'd be fine with doing it on Tuesday.
Do you know how easy a 5-minute Zoom meeting would be?
True, it would be well done.
All right, just wanted to make sure I had the logistics straight on this. Thank you.
Hey, could I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
What if the bid comes out over 150?
Yeah, right. You couldn't.
Just wondering if the Board of Finance is going to be needed for other reasons then.
Right.
Well, we'll see through Kelly how much money we really have left over. And on Kelly's vacation, she'll be looking at the numbers and punching it down.
Yep, I will be. If it's over 50,000, if it's 75,000 over, I think you guys would be good. If it's like 100,000 over, then we'll have to discuss.
If we're just a little bit over, I don't see a problem taking it out of the general fund. But it's a lot over then.
Right.
Right.
It's kind of one of those, unfortunately, we got to wait and see how it's going to pan out.
Kelly,
But we will keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Kelly, was your comment about 75 over implying that there might be that extra 25 in line item transfers available?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there would be. Yeah. There's an account right now
You're dropping out,
to
Kelly.
cover that. Oops. Sorry.
We lost you after the account.
Could you repeat that then?
Yeah.
I think we would have up to like 75,000. If it's above that, then we might have to discuss. But if it's 75,000 over, I think we'd be good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the jail cells? Nope. All right. Moving back to our sequence of items. So next item to discuss, Board of Ed update on potential cost savings in fiscal year 2020 education budget.
I believe Mrs. Haskell is going to discuss this.
All right. Christy, are you here?
I am. I don't know if my signal's the greatest. I can't get my video to go through.
Okay.
So this evening, I know you're going to see that the Board of Ed is going to request the 2% account to be able to set aside under the CT laws that allows us to do that. Because of the COVID shutdown, we have been able to save specifically with line items such as transportation, our substitutes, and we are basically at this point in time doing really well on our budget. Mr. Lucier is also with us tonight, so he can speak to the specifics of the numbers. But I think we're pretty on par for ending the year with a very nice surplus to be able to set aside.
And I don't know who has gotten the documentation for this meeting, but as you can see on the report that was submitted, I think Mr. Cunningham's going to share it.
Is that the email that you wanted to share?
No, I'm looking at the spreadsheet. Oh, that's the email for the 2%.
2%, yeah.
We find it for you.
Sure.
Who sent it over to me?
I sent it to Kelly. Kelly, I don't know if that was forwarded to the meeting, the team meeting. I think Mr. Sinkwitz had it. I thought we sent it to you too, Mr. Cunningham.
No, I don't see it. I see it from Ken only. Who, you sent it directly?
Ken may have done it.
A spreadsheet.
Just a spreadsheet. It's our object code spreadsheet.
Nope, don't see it.
No? Okay. No, I do not have it to upload.
Kelly, we did send it to you, didn't we?
I think, oops. Yeah, I think you did. You send it to me. I didn't share it with Kevin. I assumed it was CC'd to him too.
Oh, okay.
I think he was CC'd on it, but oh.
I thought so.
I don't know 100%. Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
can, I can talk to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
As you know, our year-end projection is $35,500,000, and I'm just rounding this off. That's $417,000 under what was appropriated. That is what we feel we can put into this 2% savings account or restricted account for Board of Ed purposes. The majority of that money is coming from transportation and fuel savings. We negotiated a contract with DATCO. That saved us roughly $124,000. Fuel is saving us about $40,000, and other odds and ends within the transportation bring it up to $252,000 just in transportation alone. There's also about $70,000 worth of tuition savings that Mr. Sugarman has worked on as he discussed with some of the contractors that help our special needs students. We're also looking at saving about $28,000 in overtime and roughly $65,000 in all the various services, repairs and maintenance, and supplies. It comes to $416,000, and that has not absorbed everything that could possibly be saved. I wanted to make sure the school still had some funding available to do things that they need to do as we get closer to year end. But we felt really comfortable that the $417,000 is something that we could contribute to this 2% fund account, so that next year, when things get tough, we wouldn't have to go back to the town and request money from the taxpayers.
And
go ahead, Mrs. Haslett.
in addition, we also have the CARES money, the CARES Act money that the town will be receiving.
And that's in addition to this 416.
What is the town receiving through that? Or how much?
I don't know. Mrs. Haskell, do you have that number?
The town I have as 22,000. It's 75% of the 22. That's for the town side. I don't know school side. I know we estimated, right, Ron? But I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah, I don't remember.
You said 22,000
Yeah, for the town.
for the
Yep.
town?
Yeah.
I think the Board of Ed was it 120 or 130,000, Kelly?
It could have been. Yeah. I don't
That number
remember.
sticks in my head for some reason, but I don't have anything locked in on it.
Right. We had to estimate that like about a month ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, what about the 50,000 that we had approved a while back that went towards distant learning technology?
Yeah. What happened with that is I increased the school's budget by 50,000 is just sitting in there. So if they don't spend the 50,000, then it just comes back to the fund balance.
And we did spend it. We did buy Chromebooks and we did buy hotspots. So now what happens is we'll submit that to FEMA and get the 75%. Is it 75%, Kelly?
Yeah, 75%. And the state of Connecticut, and I think the Department of Education has another 25. But I don't know how long that's going to stay afloat. You know, once that's absorbed, it's gone.
Right. Whatever the difference is, we feel we can make up of our underruns so that 50,000 will be totally given back to the town.
Somebody's got background noise. If you could mute yourself.
I'm sorry, say again?
I think I took care of it already.
I just got a note here that Mr. DePietro will hope to jump on pretty soon. He's dealing with a family matter right now.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I've got a question that we could chew over just for a quick second. So the technology, the 50 grand that we spent on there, Kelly, you said that was put onto the school budget side. And
yes.
we're going to be waiting for reimbursement from FEMA or the state department for that. So is that money, Ron, is that being in essence washed with the underruns from this year's budget, and then it's just sort of a loose reconciling item out there accounting wise?
Well, as Kelly had stated, there's 75% that will be coming back from FEMA.
Right.
So that'll immediately offset that 50,000, and then the balance would be covered by underrun beyond this 416 that we're talking about.
Okay, so beyond the 416, so 25% of that figure would be covered by the underrun this year. I guess my question is, the other 75%, we don't know when we're getting paid for that. So
True.
is the town gonna have that on our side of the books until we do get reimbursed?
Well, again, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth here, I'm assuming because we had this $416,000 underrun, I'm feeling there may be some other areas that might still be underrun. We only have 2 weeks to go, and some of the budgets in the schools are still kind of high. So there's the potential of having extra funding available to help wipe that off the books and just be done with it. Then when FEMA comes back, they just reseat us.
Okay, yep, that answers my question. I'm just curious as to, since we probably won't get paid or reimbursed for it fully before the next weeks are up, I just want to know where it's going to be sitting.
Right. I don't know what other discussion there is to have on this. I mean, that was the discussion, I guess, on, which was the second item, on the potential cost savings.
It is mentioned in the email from Ken that there's some anticipated significant cost increase for transportation next year.
Right.
That are possible. I don't know if you have any info, Christy or Ron, to speak to that right now. I know the Board of Ed is going into a contract year with GATCO, if I recall correctly, right?
Yes.
Correct. We took the 1-year freeze with DACO for this year.
Okay. Have there been discussions about what they anticipate transportation might look like when the school year resumes in the fall?
We are currently waiting to discuss what that will look like. I do expect that will be dictated by any of the COVID-19 restrictions.
Okay.
We have not actually discussed next year's busing with DATCO, only because no one knows right now the situation for next year.
All right. I would imagine, and this wouldn't at all be on the town side, but I'd be a little surprised if they weren't already looking at the addition of, more buses to their fleets for the towns that they service, if the social distancing measures seem to be what's going to drive the need for additional transportation. But yeah, if they haven't mentioned anything yet, then they haven't mentioned it.
No, and I don't think we're going to see that until we get closer. And we really know what the school year will look like next year.
Christy, would the same thing go for, as I know a lot of public places are doing as precautionary measures, such as the town hall, plexiglass purchase or similar types of protective barriers to set up in areas? Is that something that the schools are going to have to obviously look into?
Well, I know we are going to have to address PPE costs in our budget. Once we know more, like I said, we're just I'm so sorry, guys. My children tonight are all in a world of their own. So I think the PPE costs are definitely going to be a new budget expenditure. Until we know more about what the school year looks like, I'm very nervous about saying, I believe we are definitely going to need that 2% setback as a cushion with costs.
All right. Any questions for Ron, specifically on the update for the potential cost savings, or Christy?
Ron, how many of the schools have essentially closed their books or quite near close to it? You said that there were still a few schools out there in the district that weren't quite finished yet.
Yes, I believe Shepherd Hill, Moosup, and PMS are fully done with their spending. I hadn't gotten a complete report from the high school, and I'm not sure where PCS is right now. ECC still has a few dollars available for repairs and maintenance, which we just had to tap into today because one of our floor scrubbers batteries decided to die. So there's a $1,000 hit that we're going to have today. We also have to start doing some of the remodeling. We hope to take some of the money for taking the fire prevention. There's walls that need to be moved because of moving over some of the pre-K students. There's walls that have to come out of some of the rooms because of the way they were designed for the other program that we had at the school. So we need to have some electricians come in. We need to have not security, fire equipment folks come in to move some of those wirings. So there'll be costs there that we think we can take out of this year's budget. Primarily, the high school is the one big one that still hasn't closed things out. Everybody else has been pretty upfront and forward with what monies were available for me, which contributed to this 416. They seem to be, I've noticed that not a lot of POs are coming through these last couple of weeks. So I think mostly everybody's done doing what they're doing.
I mean, there's not going to be any eating into that projected savings. There's no way you'd think that number is going to be less than what you're estimating.
No, quite honestly, I would not be surprised to see it go up.
Okay.
This is Kevin. I have a quick question for Ron. I see the interaction going back and forth between the solar panel project finishing up. So that's it looks good that maybe they can get that going and
Yes.
complete that process. And we don't anticipate any additional costs at this point for our side of it?
No.
Excellent.
And to just touch on that, Mr. Cunningham, we're also waiting on the folks for the LED. They're just waiting for Eversource to give them the go-ahead.
All right, any other questions for the potential cost savings update? No? All right, we will move on to our next item, which is a good segue right from that, which is to discuss and act upon the Board of Education usage of fiscal year 2020 savings and the fiscal year 2021 budget. So what we have to do is we have to look to entertain a motion to approve what the Board of Selectmen, of course, already approved, which is they adopted that 2% savings. So we discussed a little bit about it, of course, just now in the update, but certainly we can have further discussion on that. And you had also gotten, you should have gotten through email, the attachment that Ken had forwarded, which also talked about it from the State House as far as when it was originally discussed and considered and acted on, which I think was like 2018, I think is when it originally come up.
That's correct.
Mr. Sikowicz, it looks like it was 2011 when it first came up.
All right, when it first came up, yeah.
Yep.
So I appreciated that Ken was able to forward that to us. And again, the members should have gotten that. Yep.
Yeah.
So you'll note that when the Board of Selectmen made the motion, we made it with the 2%. So that way, because we don't know the final number of what the savings were, at least we can put the 2% into play.
So the Board of Selectmen's already basically put the account line into action, and we would just be, you're looking for a motion to authorize the movement of funds into that budget line, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Deeming that the current budget year hasn't yet closed, I'll word the motion that I'll move that we approve the deposit not to exceed more than 2% of the Board of Education's operating budget into the account.
Okay, very good. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay.
it.
All right, Teddy, you second that?
Yep. I did.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Ron, Christie, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we now move on to discuss and act upon our line item transfers from the Board of Selectmen.
I'm hoping everybody got a copy in their email of the full amount of line item transfers. There's a few.
It's only 2.5 pages.
I honestly wanted to make sure this is a quarterly thing, but with COVID-19 and pushing us out, we're getting it done now. And of course, there will be one more on the 29th that we'll do for the jail cell once we get that number. So we'll hopefully have everything else done. So I will go through each of these if you want me to.
Yeah.
So you will notice that, and Kelly, if there's any changes, please let us know. But I see what you have it in front of you.
Yep.
The first one is if you want to go through 10-6101-12, the Finance Department Head, $3,600 payout of the prior Finance Director. Once we had chosen Kelly to come in, I wanted to transition quickly. So I did do a 2-week payout to move that along and expedite it. So that's the one thing I'll raise my hand for and say it was me. 10-6201-12 Finance Supplies. Then again, Tom, if you want to see the actual list of them, I have them, but it is the finance software support for the prior acting finance director. He was utilizing the company to train him how to use it, so it cost us $4,500. Next one, 10-6105-12 Payroll Services, $2,000.
Kevin, sorry, Mr. Chair and Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt you, but would it be possible to throw these transfers up on the shared screen?
Oh, bear with me a second if I can find the darn thing. That's going to take a second. So again, bear with me for a sec. Sorry.
One thing I'll just throw out there, just as an observation that I made when I was looking at the last one that Kevin just read, which was 10-6201-12, the finance supplies, the software support from the prior finance director. When he was doing that, I went back to my notes, and I know we can 100% verify it by recording and by minutes, but I didn't find any updates on that. Because what I was looking for was a Board of Finance meeting where had the board ever been updated on that expense, and I did not find anything. So just an observation I wanted to throw out there.
Was anybody else able to participate in that training, or was it just him?
Just him.
It was just him. It was our accounting software, which is Payroll company, and it was additional support for him for the accounting system.
Okay.
All righty. How far back did we do that, Kelly? Because I'm trying to go back.
Oh, the line item transfers?
Yeah.
They were at the last Board of Selectmen meeting where Becky, remember I think I had something else attached to it, and you had a hard time finding it at the Board of Selectmen meeting. It was attached to something else.
Yeah, I think I found it.
I have an email from June 11th that had that as an attachment.
Yeah, the dollar amount is $200,552.
Yeah, I don't have the current ones. Let me just find out where that. You got the email that was sent to you on June 11th, you said?
Yep.
Are you able to forward that to me, and I can just pop it right up?
Yeah, let me forward that.
I can talk a little bit during this time about what the third item is there. The payroll services, $2,000. The new time clocks, they're digital. What I'm looking to do is save us money and time. There is a payroll service company that has a digital payroll where you use a little fob key and you basically swipe it up against the machine and you go. It's no longer the punch cards. They would no longer have to keep the punch cards. Everything is electronic. The great thing about these are at the end of the week, there's one button pushed. All of those files go to payroll here. They're verified by our payroll attendant here. Make sure everything's good. And one button pushed, it goes out to Payroll Services. That is going to save a lot of time. Now, at each of the sites that I'm going to have, I'd like to have this item on. It basically will say, if your supervisor has access to it, they can go in and they can say, rekey that so-and-so is out sick today, or they had to leave early, whatever it might be. But really, it's very simple use of a machine. It would save our payroll person many hours of going back and verifying everything. And you have it, the access to that information at all times. So that was item number 3 on the list. You sent it over already?
Yep, I sent it to your Plainfield Selectman account.
Okay, I'm waiting for it to come in. Once it does, I'll pop it up. The next item on there, while I'm waiting for it to come in, is the actual audit. There was an overrun of the cost for the audit, so it's $10,6205.12. The audit costs at this point, and additional fees for guidance and audits in the early months. So that was, again, not all Kelly, it was prior additional items. All right, still don't see it coming in yet. No, that's not it.
Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah, the next two coming up, the tax collector department head and the town clerk department head. These are the two, the budget was 0, but the difference had the money amount. Those are the two that I think we had mentioned at a prior meeting. That
Correct. Yes. Tax collector is, and the town clerk, a portion of that is the same reason. Plus we hired a new town clerk and Louisa was still there. So that's part of that money too.
Yep.
The 4,500. Kevin, do you want me to go on with the line item transfers while you look for it?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. And then building supplies, building and grounds, that is for COVID purchases. The building department buys all the supplies for all the town buildings. So that's the reason why that might run over. Electricity. Okay.
Is the number 200?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do that. I got it right here.
Yep.
All right.
Will we get reimbursed for that $1,000?
For the, yeah, a portion of it you should be. A lot of them had to do with gloves and Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer. And it's not like a full $1,000. I think right now it's over maybe 500.
Everybody can see that now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All
Now
right.
you're on electricity.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was reduced in the budget, but we've gone over. So we want to make sure we're covering it. Same thing on heat. That was reduced in the budget for 1920, but it really went over. There is this one we've spoken about multiple times. It says building inspector department head. Where we needed a department head, we hired someone in for a couple of hours a week, and that's why the overrun is there. Inspectors, again, the next one up is 106242-32. Building inspector's vehicle need to increase for gas. That was, again, a under budgeted item, so we needed to up that.
Kevin, on the building inspector, do we have one now?
He is going to take his test next week, so we should be all set. Right now, we still have to use the third person just because of their certification, because they have that specific certification to be a supervisor.
Is Kyle certified?
Not in Kyle cannot do that because he doesn't have that type of a certification.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I said the 624232, that is the building inspector vehicle. It was under budgeted. Refuse disposal, just a little short, so we wanted to make sure we cut that up to put the $100 in there for that. Contracted services for highway uniforms. That one caught me off guard, but this happens, I guess, at the end of the year, Kelly.
Yeah, every year I anticipate to increase that budget line item, but it seems to get cut.
Yeah.
So it should, next budget, we should keep an eye on it.
Yep. Sick vacation payouts, that was obviously, we understood that was when Kelly got paid out, so that's why it was under. For whatever reason, it wasn't calculated properly when the budget was put together, so it was a shortage.
Yep.
General insurance and work comp. There's a little tie in there, but basically there's, if I can be correct on this one, is I believe the police have done a lot of work on the outside for road duty, and we have to increase workman's comp due to that.
Correct.
Matt, your item just got to me just now. Yeah, computers. Yeah, computer salary. The overtime hours. We want to make sure we have that covered. So there's that $3,500 for that. Kyle has been doing a lot of extra work based on COVID-19, so that's why the number's up there. We've done a lot of purchases. Some of these we're going to get reimbursed through FEMA with because of the computers that were needed. Upgrades. I mean, Kelly's still working off a laptop right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some numbers there. Plus there's some software that you're purchasing, Kelly, that you might want to explain that part of it. There's like, was that the 7,000?
Oh, yeah, that was the software for my upgrade of my accounting system. The database that we had to upgrade my accounting system. So that was part of it because the database was extremely old. So it was additional cost to do that.
And then some of the smaller items on there you'll see is Department of Health, 634348, a whole dollar off.
Kevin, real quick before we go any further,
you want to talk about the dollar?
Yes. No, line 30, 36 there, the workman's comp for the police department, I think you said.
Yes.
That's driven by additional work in town, or is that out of town?
In town.
I can give you a quick rundown. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. When they direct traffic, it's an additional revenue, a different additional salary. At the end of the year, workers' comp always comes in and does an audit of all of our salaries. And if that's not acknowledged ahead of time, saying, okay, they're going to do 30,000 in special duty. If it's above that, then they can come back and charge you more money.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, there's a real quick thing. There's five projects right now. You got the highway one, which the police are covering for when they do work underneath. You have both ends of the town. By Blueberry Lane, there's going to be work over there. At the other end of town, coming in from Jewett City, you've got up to Millbrook Road, milling and paving. You've got 1st and 2nd Street, which is having work by the water company. So that's also going to be done with support and then milling and paving. You've got the project that they have done a second time now with milling and patch paving, which is from 14A down over towards Jewett City Savings Bank. There'll be a third time with that as well. So there's those projects going on. Plus, as they come up, little projects here and there. But that's covers those items in the workman's comp.
All right, thank you. And about that dollar.
About that dollar. Same thing with a NECOG minor change for the COG. So that's by the 500. Same thing, emergency management. We're just rounding it up. Memorial Day, I saw the need to purchase another box of 144 flags, making sure we had enough. We were short last year, as it was mentioned to me, so I wanted to make sure. That's why we have a little extra in that item. Some of the things we do have is tax salaries. Now, this covers the tax collector salary.
Correct, yes.
Yep. There are retirement payoffs. You know that we have some of our employees who are planning to retire. One of them just did. So we want to make sure that was covered and had enough money for it. Some of these will be reimbursables to 75% with COVID for the glass coverings. That's what we just talked about. 11,800 for the each of the departments having some sort of screening in front of it, and they will be reimbursable at 75%. We might even be able to go back to the state of Connecticut for the where they have that pot of like 25 million for every of the other uncovered from COVID-19. Telephone was under budgeted. Well, actually, no, we have a little extra from the telephone that'll be used to pay off. We'll use some from the contingency. We'll take some from the sewer.
On the contingency, Kevin.
Yep.
On this statement here.
Yep.
It says you only have 3348 balance left.
What's the date of that one?
The one you sent me.
On 6/11?
June 11th.
Yep. Okay.
Are you still posting and updating?
Yeah, I'll have to look at that to see what was posted there. Something could have been posted there in error. I
Well, I got a couple more items too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we found, not we,
What was in?
Kelly's been finding that some things have been posted in the incorrect positions. So as the year goes on, she's been finding them and correcting them. If I can go on? Okay. Sewer payoff. Sewer payoff. There's money available from the bond that was paid off. A little extra money there. We haven't had elections or primaries for the rest of this current fiscal year. That's why there's a little bit of money left over there. Highway overtime, money left.
Another one.
Yep.
You're pulling 20 grand out of there. You have a little over 17 grand.
And she'll make sure the posting is correct.
Yep.
You're gonna ask me about pool operation?
No.
Okay.
Supplies.
All right. We'll get there.
That ain't much though.
Pool operation, obviously, since we've stopped, we will have monies left over. Part-time salaries also comes from recreation. So that's money left over. We haven't had anything going on. Supplies. You got supplies in there?
Yeah, well, you have, it's just a little bit of a difference, 4,600.
Yep. We have leftover monies from sand and gravel because it was a mild winter. Same thing with bituminous. And you guys are donating $750. Thank you. There is heart and hypertension money available. We anticipated still making payouts and some things that were still open at this point. We've done very well. We've been working with Kerma, and we have that money left over because we think we're all set with a couple of them, and we're done. So there is money left over on 6132.40 for life insurance. Unemployment, we've done well with that. We have a CME engineering company. We roughly have 15,000 left for that. And we haven't used Northeast Transit District.
You never do.
Well, yeah, I can hear what you're saying.
Oh my God.
You're gonna bust the chops of the state of Connecticut now. Let's talk about those fine folks of the state of Connecticut. Just so you know, Herman,
Don't make me go there.
Had COVID-19 not come to the plate, we already got the approval from the state of Connecticut to start the project. So once they had COVID-19 come in and held everything off, they backed off. So we're fighting right now with the state of Connecticut to see if we can, when it opens up, we can come right back into line. So, yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
I don't.
No.
Neither am I. So there's an anticipated expenditure and of $200,552 from a perspective that you can understand where we had monies were shortfall, but we had monies that we had left over. And so my request to the Board of Finance, as long as Kelly can post everything properly and we get it all in line, we can ask for the Board of Finance to consider making a motion at this point to act upon the line item transfers from the Board of Selectmen as we approve them for $200,552 to appropriately cover the shortages.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, Teddy made the motion. Don, you seconded?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the line item transfers as presented by the Board of Selectmen, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries to approve the line item transfers for the total amount of $200,552.
Thank you.
Kelly, can I just make the request of the ones that Gary was pointing out there? It's a good
Yep.
observation. Could you send us an update on those specific ones as far as that adjustment?
Took the
Yeah.
word out of my
Yes,
mouth.
I can. Yes, I can do that.
That would be nice, just so we can look back on it and make sure it's balanced. I mean, I know it's going to balance out, but just so we can.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Or if it doesn't balance, I can tell you why it doesn't balance. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next item to discuss and review the fiscal year 2020 financial statement. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep,
good.
yep.
Kelly, has with COVID and all, has there been any, when it comes to state aid money coming in, has there been any effect on that?
No, not for this budget. No, the last payment I received was municipal revenue sharing funds, and I received that was 144,803, and that was the last revenue number I was waiting for the state of Connecticut. So for fiscal year 2020, we received all our numbers, so that was good.
Good.
So I do notice, Kelly and Mr. Chair, at the top of the budget statement, very first item, education cost share.
Yeah.
We're still looking at a gap there, and I'm curious as to whether there was any additional information or, let's see, Ron, I see you're still here. If there's any communication about what's driving that and what the reconciliation process is going to be like.
Yeah,
Well,
Ron.
unfortunately, from my perspective, I don't have that documentation in front of me.
Okay. Well, I guess real short, the budgeted figure for ECS revenue is the $15,163,000, and the actual monies received by the town is in the amount of $14,992,000, driving about a $170,000 shortage in revenues.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know where those numbers actually came from.
I know the 15,163,177 came from fiscal year 2019. The number used in fiscal year 2020 budget was the same number.
Right.
I know that, but I don't know why. You know, I don't know that background. So we received 14,992,000, and that's all we've received to date for the year. Yep.
Now, if there's no further anticipated revenues in from the state of Connecticut,
no.
Is that $170,000 going to be eating into the under expenditure that the school would otherwise be turning over into the account that we approved earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, if you don't make your revenue numbers as budgeted, but say you spend less in expenditures, which is great, but then the loss in the revenue, what you budgeted, yeah, will offset the savings that you made in expenditures.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll look into that.
I'm sorry.
I will look into that.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Like I said, I was going to put a call through to Ken. You know, I know he was probably originally going to be here tonight, but he had something that came up, understandably. But as opposed to waiting, I certainly want to know sooner rather than later where we stand on that.
I suppose the good news is we already know that the school budget is going to be underrun to plan. The only thing I would caution against is if it does look like that this shortage is going to eat into that we not get too ahead of ourselves in making plans on where the money is going to be going.
Yep.
Well, based on what you approved, you approved the restricted account to be up to 2%. So if for some reason it eats into that 416, then we're the ones holding the bag on that.
Yes. That's why I worded my motion the way I did.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's 45,000 there.
60.
Kelly, any other notable items on the financial statement?
Let's see. Local LoSiP, we haven't, we didn't use all the budgeted money, the 122,512 for LoSiP. So the 36,000 will roll into the following year. So we won't lose it. It'll roll into the following year. Mashantucket Pequot, I think that was received. I just have to post it. Down in local revenue, I know, Ron, we received a payment from Sterling, so that probably should take care of tuition out of town.
Yes.
That difference there, yeah. Carol brought it down today, so that'll get posted.
Good.
Yep, that'll get posted in the month of June, so that's perfect. Recreation receipts, you see they're budgeted for 30,000, but right now we received 11,000, and that's because of summer rec. Obviously, it's not going to happen, so we're not going to receive the revenue as anticipated. Oops, sorry, my dog. Oh, funny. So let's see, what else?
The rental for the town hall and the rental for the pool, those things are obviously we're not going to get the money in because we just can't open.
Yep.
We had
what else?
possible Hyde Park sales, but because of COVID-19, they've backed off.
I do anticipate the special duty for the police department definitely will come over budget. Right now we have budget 35. There'll be more than 35,000. I anticipate closer to 50 or 60,000 in that line item. So that'll be good. I guess that's about it for revenue. I don't know if you guys had any specific revenue questions.
Just
you could see.
Need to be just revisiting the jail cells from earlier. I know you said that we kind of have a buffer there. Where do you think that would come from? Any ideas specifically as far
my
as
health insurance line item?
Okay.
Yeah, my health insurance line item.
Take a look at page 6. Third one down.
I contribute a certain dollar amount to our self-insurance fund every month, and it's consistent. And I get money paid back from sewer plant, WPCA, pays back to the town what the cost of their health insurance is. So that's driving the difference there, the 107,000. So that's the money that I can use to transfer.
Okay.
In highway, we're taking 21,000 out for your line item.
Out of highway overtime?
No, line item transfers.
For
sand and gravel.
Sand and gravel.
But you still have 31,000.
How much money did you say? I have 31,000 as of now. John was supposed to be ordering some product. I don't know if that hit the statement yet.
Definitely don't need sand.
We hope.
Global warming.
Kevin, when it comes to the Jolly blocks, which I know were originally intended for the salt shed, when are those looking to be reacquired, and what's kind of the status on the salt shed?
That's flexible at this point. We want to make sure that those people who are utilizing it keep their patrons safe. Mm-hmm. So obviously everything comes to an end of a season, and we know that when the weather changes, we can anticipate those all come back in. Some people have been talking actually about purchasing and keeping, which is fine. Yeah. Keep track of where they all are. And we're going to order the salt shed, but not put it up obviously until we get our Jolly block back and put it up.
All right, so that won't be happening probably until maybe the fall?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That computer, that computer really irks me every time I see that number.
Computers.
Computers.
Well, Kevin, you don't,
Well, I can
looking
tell
ahead,
you,
though,
That's my other pet peeve.
yeah. Well, I'm just looking ahead to with July 1st coming around very soon and the spending freeze, we don't foresee right now any unanticipated costs for computers, right? On the horizon.
That email that I sent you, that letter,
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding fast to no purchases,
Yeah, okay.
emergencies only.
Like brake pads.
Oh, actually, this week I had a break.
we
Yeah.
had that today.
Yep. That's why I use that as an example. Poor Mario's not getting his pay, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You can't use their feet to stop the car.
That's the new austerity brake measure. Use your feet, Flintstone style.
Well,
I know this is kind of out of left field here, but only because Gary mentioned the computer line here. The postage line went over. And I'm just curious as to what drives the postage line to go higher. I'm not worried about the amount of the overage. I'm just curious as to what we'd be using more postage than anticipated for.
Should I make a joke and say more mail?
I'm just curious if like we had a renewed attempt to send out property tax bills or anything like that. I'm genuinely curious.
I know Karen. Yeah, the tax collector paid an invoice at the beginning of the year that pertains to the month of June. I know that was a portion of it, but I don't know why it's over. I'd have to look to see is it just postage, the cost, like people sending more mail out? I don't know. I'd have to research that and let you guys know.
How about if at our next meeting we reply back with a proper answer for that?
Yeah,
that works.
Was there an increase in postage, dollar-wise, from the post office?
Maybe January, a penny or two. I think it's 50. Oh, if I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong. I think it's 54 cents right now on our postage machine. And it seems like it's true where it always goes up in the month of January.
I'm going to have to get back to you with a report. I'll actually put a report up on that one.
Ron, just to let you know, a conversation that I had previously had with Ken, and this has to do with the spending freeze taking effect on July 1st, was to come back to the Board of Finance probably in August. Because I think by that point, as Christy was saying, you'll hopefully have some better ideas as far as some of the expenses that are going to be coming up, some of the unanticipated. But the update maybe in August was supposed to be towards what is the Board of Ed maybe looking at kind of tightening their belt on, just like the rest of the town departments are going to be doing effective July 1st. Just kind of citing some examples. It doesn't have to be necessarily concrete numbers, but it would be helpful to know that, I mean, we all know it's not going to be a normal year. The start to the new fiscal year, it's going to be tough going forward, still dealing with the virus. So, and not just the Board of Ed, but also as time goes on, I'll also be making that request to Kevin and to other departments if there's any updates as far as what we maybe things we were planning on doing, but we no longer are. We're trying to, again, be more conservative and do zero spending. So certainly was interested in any updates from the Board of Ed side when we get to that point.
Okay.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Why don't we as a board tell them they need to do it, or at least strongly request them to do that as a board?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, don't come back to us for anything that they need.
Right, and it also goes back to like the discussion we were having earlier with savings. You know, as you guys were saying, I mean, it's hard to see into the future now with COVID because it's not like this is something we're used to. But on the flip side, I mean, you're still one of all the other departments in town, and we have to, you know, we have to be very cautious going forward. And it can't just be like, again, another year of business as usual. And thinking that, you know, you can just go back to the town and we're going to be able to appropriate additional money because we're just not going to be able to.
Would we need a motion to get that from them?
Yeah, to make it official, yeah.
I don't know how we would word that right offhand.
So notwithstanding of any possible motion, but I don't believe the Board of Ed will be meeting in July. I know they typically don't unless there is a special need for a meeting. But I was going to follow up with a question. This is loosely in that vein, just not necessarily for Ron, as he's not technically on the on the Board of Ed to answer this, but perhaps inviting them to a meeting, or at least asking Christy and any other members to be present at our July meeting, because I do feel that one of the things going forward that we need to keep an eye on is the COVID-related expenses if they're going to attempt to normalize a school schedule with this, but also given the number of variables out there with how these things are going to be funded. I know that there's probably going to be, I don't know if there's any communication about a deadline on these FEMA funds, but I know there's going to probably be a number of ideas where we don't have a concrete window of, when we can expect payment back. You know, how long are we going to be holding on to some of these expenditures if we decide to make them? And between the Board of Ed being the largest budget piece of the town and then the Board of Finance, I think there should be probably a lot of conversation, if not in person, altogether about what the approach going forward is going to be. I don't doubt that those conversations have already been had to a certain extent, but for the purpose of public record and then just information-wise as well, I think it would probably be prudent to at least invite them for some kind of formal discussion at our July meeting. I don't think this can really be pushed out too far.
Yep. So we could put this into an official motion. The only thing is I of course don't have that as an action item on the agenda.
If that does come to a motion, are we also gonna dictate to the selectmen? Because the selectmen has said it, but now we're gonna order the school department to do it. Do we then have to order the selectmen to do it? Be careful. He can change his mind at any time. I'd say we drop that matter.
Well, and again, it could go either way. We don't necessarily need to make it a formal vote. We can. That was the answer to Gary's question, is we could make it formal. But we could also just make a request, and I can do a follow-up and put it on the agenda and have him with an update for July. Him as in Ken and also Christie with an update.
Well, I know we don't have the authority over them, but it would be, as a group, just basically tell them you should really consider doing something like that.
Yeah, but maybe like Matt was saying, I mean, invite them to the July meeting.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something we certainly want to keep pushing, but that can be part of the discussion. Is my hope would be that we could get a decent turnout, you know, at the July meeting, representation from Board of Ed, and definitely put that out there in the discussion.
Gary, I think if I understand you correctly, you're looking for us to request them abide to a spending freeze effective at the same time the rest of the town is, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, as far as the school board goes, I don't think we're going to see many of their expenditures kicking off in July, per se. I think you would probably be seeing those start to really take off, you know, end of August and September.
Correct.
Ron, if I'm wrong, please, by all means.
No, you're
interject.
absolutely correct.
So I think at best right now you would get some, contingencies. I think it would probably, my opinion is it'd probably be better to start with that roundtable approach first.
Yeah.
And the Board of Finance can still make a motion. We could still act on something at that meeting with at least some sort of understanding that, the Board of Ed had representation there and they had some input to help us form our decisions and our votes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't hurt to have a joint meeting. That way you can take action both ways.
And I know the Board of Ed won't have a meeting in July, so this could be.
Well, that's not exactly. I mean, I heard from one of the board members that talked about they may consider having it in July.
Okay.
Matt, I heard that when I talked to Ken last as well, just because of the circumstances of not, and like you said, not really being able to push certain things till August, having to plan ahead in these unforeseen, circumstances. So, I mean, I think I would be willing to just leave it at that. Is I will put that on the agenda for the meeting. I guess the only question would be is, would we want to do that at the regular meeting where we might have just other business to go, or do we want a special meeting that would be joint? I guess it could go either way.
Well, will we be meeting for this, for the police department at all?
Well, that was going to be my next question before we adjourn, is I did want to get the board's feeling as far as, would you want to have cutting it right on the actual day of June 30th, the day after the selectmen's meeting? That would be for the police, the jail cells.
Right.
Especially just for that.
At that point, we could set something up with them for July, whatever, possibly,
I'd be in favor of keeping that end of June meeting specifically just for the police department, and then doing a joint meeting July. That would be best.
Good point. I agree with that.
All right. Travis, any thoughts as far as the meetings?
I'm in concurrence with my colleagues.
Okay. All right. So, I can certainly plan for that as far as I'll look to set up a special meeting for the 30th. That'll be solely just for the purpose of the jail cell action, line item transfer. And then July, like I said, I'll make sure on the agenda that Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen are invited so we can discuss this further as far as the spending.
And I'll brief the superintendent on the action that you're thinking of taking, just so that he can start putting plans together.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on the financial statement? No. Okay. Moving on to citizens' participation. I did not get any specific inquiries. I know we have a few people on here, such as Sean Peterson and John Ravenel. So I don't know if they have anything.
I have one question.
Yep.
The highway garage roof, has that invoice been paid out? Is that job complete?
The purchases for the material have been paid out. They've already started the work and they should be completing it sometime, hopefully next week.
That'll be complete under this year's budget?
Correct.
All right, Sean Peterson, was that it?
I have one more for you.
Yep.
During the last meeting, the police department discussed the problem with the ventilation. Has that problem been corrected? I had understood that there was workers working on that this week.
That I do not know, but I can find that out for you and we can report back.
Okay, does the new bid include upgrades to that system?
That would be
not.
Go ahead.
No, not that I know of. I don't think that was written in there.
No, and I hadn't heard.
Yeah, they were trying to fix that themselves first. They
Wasn't
believe
that
they knew what it was. It was a parts issue.
Wasn't that discussed in the original when they presented that there was problems with that, and that was part of the reason we needed to get an architect involved to make sure the system was adequate for what they were doing.
Right, and they did look at that and they realized that there were some parts that were no longer functioning and they were able to work on getting a fix for it by getting some other parts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, citizens' participation?
A quick note to Ron, since you're here, this last meeting, they mentioned they were taking a look at the accounting system that the Board of Ed was going to use. How is the new accounting system working out? Because I believe that was supposed to be either in place by now or it's going into action rather soon, correct?
It's going live July 1. I believe next week we do our first test of the payroll. And Becky, our payroll secretary, has been in real tight communication with Infinite Visions. And we're actually coming down to the wire, and the last few training sessions for the rest of the district and the secretaries and supervisors are all planned for July and August. We're on target to go live.
Awesome. Thank you. I know you guys worked really hard on making sure that was going to be all set up.
It's been quite a task.
Yes, so your efforts are very much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kevin, you had no inquiries, right? No questions or comments from anybody to you?
Correct.
Okay. So with that said, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 30th. It'll be a special meeting specifically for line item transfer for the police station, jail cells.
6:30?
6:30, yep. Is everybody fine with it being virtual?
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay with me.
Yeah, because I think what Kevin and I were talking about before is it's possible that in July we might actually be looking to go back to in person.
Will there be air conditioning?
Hey.
Good question.
Not in the budget.
Yeah.
It's not run by computers. Come on.
All right, and on that note, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
I'll
We
second.
adjourn.
Okay, Don? Matt, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, nephew.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Uncle Ted.